Hello and welcome to Ashes of the Imperium. My name is Dan, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Max. Welcome back to the show, Max.
Hello, Dan. How are you?
I'm living the dream. Thank you very much.
Good stuff.
How about you?
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. Excited to talk new codex.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one's a little bit late. We got sent Codex Tyranids by Games Workshop, so massive shout out for them for providing a review sample. But of course, it has been in everyone's scything talons for some time now. So a little bit late, but also I decided, Max and I had a little chat after the last episode, the Space Marines Codex review, which if you haven't checked out, then absolutely add it to your playlist after this one. And Max is now going to join Ashes of the Imperium full time. I say full time, as in like on a regular basis. It's
I've got another job.
yeah. Just there's no contract here, mate. I'm not going to pay you any money.
Oh, damn it! What, really?
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Talking about Warhammer for a living, but maybe one day.
Some people are lucky enough to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Although, turning your hobby into a job, I'm sure it's
yeah,
not
there is
sunshine
a risk
and rainbows.
There is a risk. This is a baby step.
A baby step to world domination. But yes, anyway, Max will be joining me on the regular, and I think regular is the key word that I'd like to highlight here. Max and I are really keen to start pushing out sort of fortnightly content. Really keen to kind of get Ashes back on the airwaves on a regular basis, so it's clogging up your feeds with loads of cool 40k and Warhammer related content. So make sure you kind of subscribe to the YouTube channel or subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or iTunes, whatever it is, wherever it is you get this delicious 40k goodness from, and join us for the ride. So Tyranid, Max, tell us all about Tyranids.
Well, not something that I have much experience of commanding myself, but it is something that I have been on the receiving end of many a whomping from 8th edition onwards. Do you remember in 8th when you could tag a vehicle and then it would have to fall back and then it couldn't shoot?
Absolutely.
Hated it. So I played many a Tyranid player who delighted in just, pinky tapping my Lehman Russes and preventing all their shooting with their swarms and swarms of Hormigants. So not an army that I have ever commanded myself, but one that I have faced many times and actually quite enjoyed playing. I think it is a fun army to go up against.
Yeah, it's an army that I've always had a massive, calling to. The hive mind calls to me. I just really like, I really like the models. I really like the kind of terrifying lore behind it. I had a massive Tyranids army back in, I don't know, like 6th edition or something like that, 5th and 6th edition into 7th.
I remember playing your Tyranids back in like 2011 or something.
Was it at Warhammer World or?
No, this was on the floor of your bedroom, I believe.
Rock and roll.
Before we had, I think there were books as terrain and no map marked out or anything like that. It was very floor hammer, but still great fun.
Oh, that sounds about right. But yeah, big fan of Tyranids. And also, like, if you've watched Starship Troopers, which, to be honest, if you're going to pause this podcast and do one thing with your life, it's watch Starship Troopers. If you haven't done it already, Troopers, seriously, get a grip of your life. But obviously, the Arachnids and Starship Troopers are very reminiscent of Tyranids. As are the Zerg in StarCraft as well. A huge fan of that game. So there's lots of, and of course the Xenomorph in Aliens and the Alien saga. There's lots of things that really kind of call to the nature of Tyranids, which I'm a big fan of.
I think they're just very different from any other 40k army as well, right?
Yeah, despite being kind of almost generic, bugs in space.
Screamy aliens. Yeah.
Yeah, despite being almost at the risk of being slightly generic, they are not. They are a really unique
entirely
faction.
Biological, just very different to the dudes in armor with guns that most other factions are, right?
Absolutely.
That's a really cool, appealing trait of them as an army to collect. And look, I think as a good beginner army as well, maybe not in terms of like quantity of models if you want to do certain horde lists and stuff, but I think they're very forgiving models to paint. You can be quite messy with them and do a lot of different things with them, and they're quite fun models to kind of hobby with as well, I think.
And there's a huge amount of variation in the range as well. So if you do want to go for a horde army, they're very cool. If you want to go for a monster mash, there's that. And they also have like all 40k armies do. They have lots of kind of niches that you can kind of fall down, and we'll perhaps talk a little bit about that when we get to the detachments, but they've got their psychic things of various different sizes. They've got their kind of harvester kind of things of different
Mhm.
sizes, and then they've got like the alpha beasts. Yeah, so you could definitely kind of go down a little lane with them and kind of focus your army on a theme, which obviously we're big fans of here, being slightly more narratively focused. But yeah, and there's a whole bunch of new models now. So again, not only are they a great army for beginners because of the reasons that you just said, but also all the 10th edition starter boxes have Tyranids in them. So
Yeah, and they've done GW have done that thing with the new sculpts as well of updating a classic but very kind of understated and subtle upgrade. And I just think they've hit the mark so well with the new Hormigants, or have they got new Hormigants? New Termagants for sure, new Gene Stealers. They
yeah,
just look
and new
fantastic.
Hormigants.
Yeah, they just look so good. It's like the when they updated the Loyalist Terminators, when they updated the Chaos range a few years ago and brought out new Legionaries and new Chaos Terminators. They did it so perfectly. Like it's not, they've not gone crazy with the details. It's just really subtle but really decent upgrade. And if you were starting a Tyranid army from scratch now, like, oh god, you got such good models to pick from.
Yeah, they are stunning, and like that new Norn emissary and the assimilator is just really gribbly.
Yeah, that might be one. Have you seen one in the flesh yet?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I went up against one a couple of weeks ago. And it's such a good model. One of my favorite new models that's been released, I think, in the last year or so. It's just so intimidating, and the pose is so good, and the proportions. It looks sleek like a hunter. It's not like big and chunky, and it's
It's
really
it's
mean.
definitely not as big as I thought it was going to be. Or well, I thought it was going to be. It's definitely not as big as it could have been, because there was kind of rumors of a kind of Imperial Knight sized
Oof,
Tyranid beastie coming out.
that would have been cool.
That would have been cool, but
Mm,
it isn't that huge, which is cool. Which is cool.
mm.
Talking of new models, as ever, we are doing a little giveaway. So they did release a plastic Death Leaper, and he has a funky kind of cloak thing,
Hey,
which
he's
is
like a bat.
he's
Yeah,
like
he's
that
like
guy in your hobby store that wears the leather trench coat. I might get one and 3D print a little fedora for him.
Is he going to ask you if you want to take the red pill or the blue pill?
Oh no, not a cool trench coat, Max.
Well, but trench coats never are they? Well, oh
Absolutely.
gosh,
Well,
I'm
when
going to alienate a lot of people.
I think him in a little fedora would be cool. I don't think did Morpheus ever wear a fedora, Max?
Milady? No, not Morpheus. Never, Morpheus never wore a fedora.
Oh yeah, that's what would have made the Matrix films a bit better. Morpheus turning to be actually Milady. So good, so good. Anyway, back on track. We were there talking about the Death Leaper giveaway. So there's two ways to enter. You can head over to YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel and leave a comment on this episode's video, and you can then head over to Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram and comment on the episode's kind of Instagram posting. Then all the comments and all the posts will then be entered into a big randomizer, and we'll draw out a winner, and we will send you your very own Death Leaper to stalk the shadows with and execute your friends from the darkness within. So talking about the darkness within, what about the darkness without? So outside of the galaxy, this new darkness is emerging. Max, tell us what the Tyranids are.
Tyranids are a race from beyond the Milky Way galaxy, which I think immediately makes them creepy. They have emerged from the intergalactic void, which is very terrifying because of the unfathomable distances that they have had to cross. So, how many more Tyranids are there out there in other galaxies? Is this the ones that are currently besieging the Milky Way galaxy? Is that the entirety of a Tyranid race? Or are there multiple dozens of hive fleets attacking multiple galaxies at the same time? But they appear to have no sentience of their own. They're a hive mind collective, and their sole purpose seems to be invade planet, assimilate biomass, and move on. So they've got this kind of locust vibe to them, right? And they seem to be psychically connected to something that the Imperium has termed the hive mind, this greater intelligence. And I like how the hive mind has kind of got a deific element to it. No one's seen the hive mind. They don't know exactly what it is or where where it's located, where it exists. Is it somewhere in the intergalactic void? But the whole concept of this, ravening locust-like species that just moves from one planet to the next, consuming all biomass without any ability to reason or negotiate with, is pretty terrifying, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's one of the scariest things in the 40k universe. I think the fact that they are a kind of like they are sentient, but they are not intelligent. Well, that's the
Yeah,
wrong. No, that's the wrong word.
The individual bug would not act. It would act instinctively, right, to protect itself and defend itself.
They are
But,
intelligent,
yeah.
they have this kind of alien cunning,
Yeah.
but they're not there to be reasoned with. They're not there to be bargained with. You can't negotiate. You can't, you can't outrun them. You can't out anything them. They hyper adapt. And I love the stories where they'll use kind of anti-tank shells against these big beasts, and then they come back in the next wave with reinforced carapace. So they'll use like acid bombs and phosphex, and then they'll come back later with phosphex resistant carapace and stuff. Stuff like that.
That
Yeah, just really cool.
Is really, really scary.
Yeah, that alien cunning is it's like they're not there to be reasoned with, are they? They're not there to be bargained with or negotiated with. They are, single-mindedly just consuming the whole galaxy. And the infinite nature of them, like you say, petrifying.
If a great white shark is bearing down on you and you ask it to stop, it's not going to. And it's the same thing, right? Like all they want to do is consume you, move on, and chilling.
And I think even like Space Marines, you can they used to be humans, now they're transhuman, and they have, whilst they know no fear, they also they have kind of human emotions, and you can kind of relate to them. And even orcs are a bit comical, and they're kind of terrifying, physical beasts, but they have a little bit of a comic value in 40k and stuff like that. The Tau obviously are very they've got the whole diplomacy thing going on, but the Tyranids, no, they're not even evil. That's the thing, they're not even evil. They are just
there's no mustache twirling going on here. It's just ecology at work.
Just pure ecology. Love it. So how were they discovered? How did they come into the to the kind of 40k universe?
Well, they're named after the planet Tyran, of course, which was the first Imperial planet to encounter them, I do believe. Hive Fleet Behemoth, is that right? Was the first Hive Fleet that was encountered by the Imperium. And, what happened was basically Tyran was cut off psychically, because that's the other terrifying thing about the Tyranids, is this shadow in the warp. And obviously, across the vastness of space, mankind,
mine's immeasurably superior to ours, drawing their plans against us.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I swear I've done that. I swear I've done that in a recent episode as well with someone else.
Really?
Yeah.
You've just got War of the Worlds on the brain.
I've just got the same 3 jokes that I just recycle. So, but yeah, what an absolute tune. But yes, unlike the musical War of the Worlds, the Tyranids are scary.
Yeah, but it's the shadow and the warp, isn't it? That's the terrifying thing. Like before they even arrive on the planet, they cut off communication so that you can't even ask for help. You can't even scream for help. You can't warn other planets and nearby systems that something is happening. You are completely isolated. And then the invasions begin, and you get these kind of vanguard beasts that come down initially, and then the bioships arrive en masse. All of the Tyrannocytes drop down, these horrible biological dropships, and this is exactly what happened to Tyran, which is a big Forge world, I think, and it just gradually picked off the main fortifications one by one until there was one single fortification standing. And obviously that got wiped out as well. And from there, I believe, Behemoth, Hive Fleet Behemoth moved on to Macragge and assaulted the Ultramar system. And that was, the first kind of big tyrannic war between the Imperium and the Tyranids. So
yeah, the start of the Tyrannic Wars.
Yeah. Which is your favourite of the Tyrannic Wars?
My favourite of the Tyrannic Wars?
There's been 4, and I think they've each got quite distinct themes going on?
So I'm a big fan of the first Tyrannic War
Hmm.
because that whole, bear moth on Macragge, snow planet, it's
Hmm.
where we see the kind of Tyrannic War veterans first come out. It's where the Ultrareeds first company were like completely wiped
Yeah,
out. Not just kind of
annihilated.
like, they nearly all died
No, to
or
a man.
nearly all of them died. It's like every single
Yeah.
one of them died. And that's just cool. And also like aesthetically, dark red and
Hmm.
dark blue Tyranids on kind of white snow bases against these kind of bright cobalt blue
Hmm.
ultramarines. It's a very cool thing.
Hmm.
And also, Battle for Macragge was the starter set for the fourth edition of 40k.
Mm.
So it's the one with the little crashed Aquila lander, which everyone's very fond of.
Yeah,
Um,
very good piece of terrain.
but yeah, just like I'm a big fan of that. But I think Kraken is probably my favorite high fleet.
Yeah, they're a bit
Just
sneakier.
yeah,
Behemoth are very in your face. Root
yeah,
One, Kraken are a
absolutely.
bit more cunning.
Yeah, I like Kraken. My original army was painted as Kraken.
Nice color scheme as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
you can use a lot of Wraithbone spray and skeleton bone.
Well, perfect. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
Kraken is, of course, the Inquisitor Cryptman, isn't it? The setting the orcs and the High Fleet Kraken against each other in the Octaria system. I think I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think that was Leviathan, but that's of course the Cryptman Gambit, wasn't it? Where he basically uses some weird orc technology to kind of boost a signal.
Yeah, I think it was like a captured gene stealer or something like that.
Is it the baby T Rex in Jurassic Park: The
Yeah,
Lost World?
I think so. Yeah, but it was the gamble, right? And then because he tried a lot of different things. He was the Inquisitor who discovered what had happened on Tyron, of course,
Yes.
and
So
he
the
kind of made yeah
Archmagos kind
yeah.
of at the end, like as the last surviving dude on the planet, is like, right, well, we're all done for, and he kind of presses the big red button and sends like a kind of data vault into the
Yeah,
core of the planet to kind of
yeah.
hide it, buries a little time capsule, and Cryptman comes along and is like, what's going on here? Why is
Hmm.
this world completely dead? And then discovers the little capsule, and that's when we find out about the unknown Xenos, which are then named the Tyranids.
Yeah, really cool. Gives Macragge gives the Ultramar system a chance to prepare as well, doesn't he, with his warning? But like he went like full apocalypse now on them. Like he was increasingly desperate and would like exterminatus entire planets in the way of the High Fleet to try and slow them down and deprive them of biomass. So he kind of did everything that he could to see off the Tyranid threat. So a really kind of scary character in his own way. But I love how
40k, a very odd,
no,
a very odd, character in 40k, a very extreme, character that goes to any length to vanquish a foe. We've
oh,
not really.
yeah, they're normally so reasonable, Dan. Yeah, but I think reading some more of the lore to kind of as to get ready for looking at this codex, I really like the stuff about the fourth Tyrannic War
Okay,
with
why's that?
High Fleet Leviathan attacking the Segmentum Pacificus. There was two kind of tendrils of the High Fleet coming from different directions, and this is kind of post the Great Rift. So everybody on Terra is they're distracted with Indomitus. They're cut off from the galaxy's in a bit of a mess right now, right? So they're really slow to respond to this threat, but eventually they get their act together and they launch these kind of super elite fleets that they call Soul Blades
Mm.
out from the Terra system. Trajan Valorous is like leading one, so they're the Lord Commander of the Custodes. So they're really elite, and they're kind of set out to do these, daring hit and run raids and kind of slow down the progress of Leviathan to I can't remember the name of the planet that they're heading towards, but they're really successful in this. But eventually, a third tendril, and Leviathan are really sneaky. I think more so than Kraken actually. Kind of sneaks up from below the galactic plane, so from a direction that no one was expecting, and assails this planet, and it's like it's desperately hanging on. This is where the Norn emissary comes in as well, because one of the commanders defending this planet is Solar Leonotus, I think his name is. You know,
Oh, dude on robot horse.
dude on robot horse. And the Norn emissary, it's like the will of the Hive Queen. It's been sent to destroy him, and
That's
it's
cool.
just about to, and you know everything's gonna, oh my goodness, no, everything's gonna go wrong, and then all the soul blades kind of return just in time to save the beleaguered planet at the last minute, and Trajan Valorous kills the Norn emissary, and it's all very epic and heroic. So that's a pretty cool story as well.
That's badass.
Mm-hmm.
I think I wonder what the Sisters of Silence would be like against the Tyranids.
Oh, what, like immune to the,
Yeah.
because it's it's your psychic energy, isn't it? The you know, the void attacks, right? Like it drives psychers insane, but even non-psychic people is like they have a little bit of psychic resonance still. So
Yeah, so the shadow and the warp. Let's touch on that. It's very cool. It is, you know, to various different people, it manifests itself in different ways. So to psychers, it is like your mind is screaming. You can't manifest your powers, or if you can, you know, it's really dangerous to do so. And you know, even to like non-psychers, it's just this kind of like blanket of weird energy. Some describe it as
dread feeling,
a numbing blanket of static that fills their thoughts and makes it hard to even think or speak, which is pretty cool. And you know, races like Eldari, who are by nature very kind of psychically attuned, it, you know, affects them, you know, really, really badly.
I think it talks about in the Codex, doesn't it? Even the Tau are affected by the shadow and the warp, and they have like no psychic. Well, they're not psychically gifted, but what do you reckon? So, Sisters of Silence, do you think?
So, what does it say here? Oh, yeah. So it says only truly psychically inactive races, such as the Tau or Necrons, have less to fear from the shadow. But even then, the insidious hive mind has methods by which it can weaponize its gestalt will against them to claim victory.
You don't stand a chance, do you?
Nah, and that's
one
is
thing I got.
Yeah, you are completely effed, aren't you?
Yeah, like the descriptions of a hive fleet invading your planet is just, you literally don't stand a chance. Which, when you read that, and it's like, well, you know, good God, like, what can you do? Do you sometimes think like and just at the last minute, I mean, obviously they can't, like, you know, nuke the galaxy with the Tyranid threat. But from what you read, the Tyranids do feel like the biggest threat to the galaxy.
Oh, for sure.
But the Imperium always manages to pull it out at the last minute.
Well, I feel like the Tyranids are the 40k universe's end game.
Yeah,
but we won't ever get there because this isn't a story that finishes.
No.
They are this kind of like, they're always going to be.
That would be the thing that would do it, though.
Yeah, like if you were to take the 40k universe to its narrative conclusion, I personally think it would be the Tyranids that would cause that would cause the end of humanity. And I suppose with the end of humanity and sentient races comes the end of chaos.
Yeah, because chaos is the manifestation of our emotions, right? Like it's our souls, and it's our like chaos gods exist because of us. Yeah.
And so if the Tyranids munch all that stuff, then no chaos.
Nothing to sustain them, yeah.
Yeah. And if I think
they're the reset button.
Yeah, I think the only thing that stops them is something like the Necrons.
Yeah, what they can't sustain themselves from.
They can't sustain themselves from them. They've got kind of old one tech, access to old one tech. They've got the access to the Catan tech, you know, stuff like that. I think the only realistic thing that could possibly, I don't know, pull out like a magic MacGuffin that stops the Tyranids is probably the Necrons, you know, Sarek, the Silent King.
But I think they are the scariest threat because of a lot of the stuff that we've already talked about.
For sure. And even things like, you know, we just mentioned Necrons there, like they are this kind of like silent, endless legions of death robots. But even like the kind of narrative writers for 40k have made some of them into like characters. You've got like the quirky Indiana Jones one. You've got the kind of the evil machine one that sucks your souls, you know, like with a little moustache twirl. But Tyranids don't have any of that. They don't have personalities. Maybe that's why I relate to them so much, Max.
No personality and always hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. Only mildly more bearable when fed. But yeah, so going back to the point there, I think Sisters of Silence would be really cool to kind of fight against Tyranids. I think,
Mhm.
if you're going to have a part of the Imperium that's going to do well, I think like a Death Watch team with attached Sisters of Silence.
Yeah, but there's so few of them, Dan.
Well, exactly. Yeah, like that's your kind of that's your movie. That's
Mhm.
them winning. But like I say, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, Shadow in the Warp, rules wise, used to be more difficult to manifest psychic powers, but now it's a really cool thing, which will perhaps we'll bounce onto the rules in a mere moment, because I wanna expand slightly on my Lost World Jurassic Park story.
Go on.
So my favorite Tyranids bit of lore is Jurassic Park adjacent. I don't know whether you've heard of the Anphelion project.
I have not.
So back in the day, Forge World did a bunch of books called Imperial Armor books, which you may have come across.
Yeah, like the campaign books, right?
Yeah, campaign books, absolutely. And they did one, I think it was book 4, and it was the Anphelion project. And effectively, it's like an Auto-Xenos experiment. And so they collect like a bunch of dead Tyranids or like little small Tyranids, and they kind of put them in this big facility and try and do experiments on them to work out how to beat them. Like in a classic kind of, like the latter films of like AVP, Aliens versus Predator,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where they try and like weaponize the Tyranids or something like that. It was just a classic, let's build a facility and try and harness this thing that should not be harnessed.
Did life find a way?
Life did find a way, Max. Life did indeed find a way. Effectively, they started like grow wings, and they tried to they're like, oh, purge, sector 3. Okay, now purge sector 2. But sir, sector 2, it's not working. The fences, the Velociraptor pen's gone out. And let's say hilarity ensues.
Oh my god.
And then a strike force of red scorpions. Again, as of last episode's one of the coolest chapters to exist. Red scorpions, a bunch of admech, and Imperial Guard, including the wonderful Elysians, and one of my favorite Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum regiments.
Yeah, they are very cool.
A bunch of Elysians and a guy called Inquisitor Solomon Locke arrive and try and fix the situation. And we won't go too much in detail, because I think it would make a good episode to we'll get a copy of that book and go through it and talk about the narrative of it, because it's very cool.
We should do some book clubs.
Book club, Ashes of the Imperium book club. Yeah, so, and he had a really cool model. There was a bunch of Legion stuff that came out. Red Scorpions, led by Carab Colm, who later became a Leviathan Dreadnought. And there's some cool moments in it, and we'll get onto it there. But basically, it's kind of Jurassic Park-esque, Lost World type thing, a mixture of those two films, or perhaps all the films over, and stuff goes quite rapidly south for the Imperium, and it's a brilliant little story.
I think Solomon Locke might be one of my favourite Warhammer names as well. That's just, you can't be anything but a badass.
Yeah.
With that name, right?
They're like Mummy and Daddy Locke. They give birth to their child, and they're like, right, he's got a name, Locke, and it's L-O-K, not L-O-C-K. So at least they're like, oh, he's either going to work on a canal or make keys for a living, padlocks for a living, but let's give him a badass first name, and maybe he'll become an Inquisitor. And he did.
I appreciate your canal humor there, Dan.
I'm glad someone did.
You really navigate in the situation.
Oh, stop it, you. That's enough. That's enough. Anyway, just thinking now about how Rosie and Jim would do well in the 40k universe. I'm not sure they would. That's a really cool story. We'll touch on that in a future episode. And also, like more films of decades ago. There's a great little snippet where it has like all the living weapons, and it has a little thing that says predatory projectiles, and it reminded me somewhat of the film The Mummy.
Oh, what with the
scarabs?
Yeah. Oh, they are that's that. I think I watched The Mummy when I was. God, when did that come out?
Well, that was 1999.
So I would have been 11. And the bit with the scarabs, that's
it's proper creepy, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it was one of the first DVDs we got, actually.
Amazing.
When we made the switch from VHS to DVD, Dad was like, "Hey, check this out, The Mummy.
This out."
Yeah. And
you're like, I'm either going to leave this film either bisexual or mentally scarred. Maybe. How about a little bit of both? Bit of column A, bit of column B.
Mate, Imhotep is a good-looking dude.
He is a good-looking dude. It's got Brendan Fraser. It's got Imhotep. It's got Rachel Weisz in it. It's got something for everyone.
But yeah, no, we had The Mummy and the Wild Wild West were the two DVDs.
What a film!
So I watched both of those way more times. Well, the Mummy's a classic that deserved multiple watches, but I'm less sure Wild Wild West did. But yeah, the scarabs and this whole idea of living ammunition. Ugh, no, thank you.
Oh yeah, like,
Anything crawling in? No, just
yeah.
no.
I remember, like, growing up at school, and you'll no doubt be able to give me the Latin name for these things, but about people when they were like urinating in the Amazon River
Mm-hmm.
and bugs or something like swimming up the stream.
The stories you hear.
Is that true, Max?
That
As
what
as
those
as, as a as a man with a geography PhD,
Look, I'm no expert on Amazonian ecology, but I think
you're
there
not
is
going to
an
be Solomon Locke's 2IC, are you?
No, I'm not. But I think there is an element of truth to that story.
We'll have to fact check that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you'd hear stories about things like that, and of course there's like those wasps that like bury their bugs inside like the skin of cows and stuff, don't they?
Oh, good lord. Yeah, and just
Oh
it really, the whole Tyranid thing really plays on that creepy crawly, doesn't it?
yeah, like nature is minging. Nature is
Mm-hmm.
horrible, and
Mm-hmm.
Tyranids are kind of the most extreme manifestation of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so better watch out. Anyway, on to the rules, Max. Unless you've got any
Yes.
more Tyranid narrative stories to spin.
No, I don't think so. Well, have you read the Eisenhorn books?
I have read, I think, 2 of the Eisenhorn
Okay.
books,
All
which
right.
is I shouldn't even be like running a narrative 40k podcast and admitting that. I should be like, yeah, I've read them 17 times a day,
17
Max.
times, and
Yeah.
I've done the Ravener trilogy too, and yeah, moved on to the Elizabeth Beckwin books as well. But no, anyway.
Stop showing off,
So
mate. Tell us your story.
I won't do too many spoilers, but the Magos, which is the 4th book, I think, 3rd or 4th, it's the last one, where he's old and even more scary, is split between kind of short stories in the first half, and then all of those short stories kind of come together in the second half of the book, and that's the sort of Eisenhorn bit. And there is a short story about a Magos biologus called Valentin Drucker, who has been commissioned to perform an ecological survey of this backwater planet. And he's been there for years. He's completed his work. He absolutely hates it. And then all of a sudden, on this very isolated peninsula, people start disappearing. And he's told to, you've missed a predator from your ecological survey. Like, get out there and fix it. And he goes out there. There's like a imperial priest who is saying that this is a manifestation of chaos and we need to pray harder to get rid of it.
Pray harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. That's always worked.
He goes out there with a arbiter. What are they called?
Squad of Arbites.
Yeah, he goes out with a 40k cop.
A dude with a shotgun and a badge.
A girl with a shotgun and a badge. She's a real badass. And there's also a hunter who's goes out there with them to try and find this thing. And the hunter is basically, to go back to Jurassic Park, clever girl.
Ah,
he's that guy.
Muldoon, I think his name is, Max. Come on.
He's that, right? So they go out and they hunt this thing down, and it's picking them off one by one. It gets the hunter and all of his party, and Drucker identifies it as, oh my god, this is a Tyranid. And they finally kill this thing, him and the Arbites, commander. And I won't tell you what happens next, but that's a really cool, kind of short story involving the Tyranids, because it's only a Hormigant that they're hunting, right? Which is the lowliest, piddliest little swarm model that you can include in your armies. And this thing hunts and kills and takes out like 15, 20 heavily armed, prepared people. And it just shows you, like, one-on-one, how absolutely terrifying these things are. It's a really good story. I recommend it if you've not read it yet.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think that's a great point to kind of end on in terms of like the narrative side of things, of how apocalyptically terrifying these things would be to a baseline human.
I wouldn't stand a chance.
You would be absolutely...
I wouldn't
it's just not
fancy my
happening.
chances, to be honest, against a grot.
Yeah, fair.
So give me a Hormigant and I like a Ripper. I don't think, Dan, there is a thing in the 40k universe that I could beat.
I'm just now trying to rack my brains and think of something that could, like even just like a squig would be terrifying, wouldn't it?
God,
More terrifying than a grot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think you could beat in a? Yeah, go on. If you had to pick one thing,
If I had to fight
if
one
you had to
thing,
fight one thing in the 41st millennium, what would it be?
can I choose? Like, I was going to say, can I choose a guardsman?
That's
But,
exactly
like,
what I'd choose.
But what, like Acadian?
What
Who?
a thing, a person that's been brought up since a child to be a soldier.
Yeah, I mean,
Even like the lowliest Cadian's going to be.
it's going to kick your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan, it's an impossible question. Can I tap out? Or maybe like a what's the word? Navigator.
Okay.
But they're hugely psychically.
Well, the psychic
capable.
ones, they'd zap you with their third eye, mate.
Oh my god, no, I can't.
I'd pick like an air cast or water cast Tau.
Always
Like,
picking on the Tau, you aren't you?
yeah. Punch that blue fish face.
But they just want to have you join the greater good.
Yeah. I'd be like, greater good this, pow.
Like knocking on your door.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the greater good?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like Book of Mormon musical, but featuring the Tau.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think you're onto a winner there.
There we go.
I can't beat that.
No, well, not like I can beat a Tau, but cool. Right. Talk about the rules, Max.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 2 army rules, haven't we?
We do. Yep, which are very good. Shadow and the Warp is really good this edition. Once per battle, you can force every enemy unit to take a battle shock test, which can come in really, really clutch if the points are tight on the primary and there's a really key round coming up where they could potentially have a big swing and it could really go against you. Being able to turn off objective control and turn off stratagems is really good, really powerful, which I think works really nicely. I think I prefer that to how it's manifested in previous editions. I think it has a lot more utility now, potentially.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if you were facing something like Drakari or Tau, and your enemy didn't have any psychic units, then Shadow in the Warp was
kind of useless. Yeah,
it was completely useless. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I really like
it works
this
against
change.
all comers now.
Absolutely. And Synapse has changed significantly as well. They used to have like quite bad negative effects of your army when units were outside
when you were
of psychic.
out of Synapse range. Yeah, like you had to charge if there was an enemy in range, and back when you could Overwatch.
Yeah, like instinctive behaviors.
Yeah, no, it was quite tough. But now Synapse is when you take a battle shock test, it's done with 3d6 as opposed to 2d6.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, because
super powerful.
I really like that battle shock doesn't lose models now. Like your models don't leave the board, which was really frustrating, especially when you were playing like they shall know no fear, and you guys like running away. Like, no, come on, you're not supposed to do that. But so now battle shock, turning off OC and limiting a unit from being able to benefit from stratagems is really bad when it happens to you. So the fact that there's 3d6, I mean, I've played Tyranids fairly regularly in 10th edition so far, and I don't think my opponents have failed a battle shock test yet, which is frustrating for me, but it shows you the power of that rule.
I think it's very possible to create armies that are very sort of built and focused around battle shock, but I'm not sure they're going to be any good. Because all it takes is to be up against something like Tyranids, where they've got specific rules, and then the kind of whole point of your army, the strength of your army, is just completely neutered.
Well, as a Night Lords player, Dan, this worries me because I'm guessing when we get our Chaos Codex that there will be a morale shenanigans detachment. Well, I'm hoping there will.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not 100% convinced it's a brilliant. I think there's going to be enough in the rules that allow you to ignore things like battle shock that it's not necessarily
3d6 for a battle shock test is really good, really strong. Because
you
have to, they do come up quite often now. Like as soon as that unit's below half strength, you got to take one. And there's lots of synapse creatures in the book, so it's fairly easy to keep things within synapse range. So yeah, it's a good rule. And then alongside those rules, of course, we've got the usual thing now with 10th. We've got the different detachments. So there are 6 different attachments now, is there?
Yeah, and we did our usual thing of we picked our favorite detachment and we built a little army. We're not going to go too massively into the rules for the ones we didn't do, but there are the 4 that we haven't picked. Invasion Fleet, which you'll recognise from the index. There's Crusher Stampede, which long-time Tyranid players will remember from various different supplements. So Invasion Fleet is probably like the vanilla kind of
It's a good all-comer. Yeah.
All-comer one.
Yeah.
The Crusher Stampede is the Monster Mash, which affects monster units. Unending Swarm is that kind of Zerg Rush, Starship Troopers, Arachnids kind of swarm thing. And that affects Endless Multitude units, so things like Termagants and Hormagants and a couple of
All the
others.
Gribblies.
All the mini Gribblies. Assimilation Swarm, I think this is one of the toughest ones, I think, which affects Harvester units.
It's a weird one. That's only 4 data sheets.
Yeah, that's not very many, is it?
Yeah, Psychophage, Horospecs, Pyrovore, and Ripper Swarms.
Yeah.
And yeah, this one's a tricky one. I couldn't get on with that one. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I like the idea of there being a Ripper Swarm dedicated army. But
hey, well, we've talked about how terrifying that would be.
Yeah, it would be terrifying in real life. Perhaps on the tabletop, less so. Now, how many objectives do you capture with your Ripper Swarms? I want to say 0.
Yeah, they're not sticking around. No, Assimilation Swarm I struggled with. But which one stood out for you, Dan?
So Synaptic Nexus,
Okay.
I think, was the one that I'm going to talk about in a second. I just like the extremeness of the list that you could build. The kind of like listeners will know that I really like very heavily themed lists. In 9th edition, I kind of built around an army idea of flying Tyranids based off some of the Flashpoint stuff that was in the narrative Flashpoint series in White Dwarf. It was really cool, but I was kind of hoping to do that army for 10 because I was hoping that Tyranid Warrior Shrikes would come back. And those are basically Tyranid warriors with wings. So we saw the return of the winged Tyranid Prime, and I got so excited because I thought, winged Tyranid Prime, perfect. We're going to get winged warriors, but sadly not. So
never materialised.
No,
didn't evolve fast enough, Dan.
No, sadly not. Sadly not. Should have been in the Anphelion complex, and they would have evolved with wings. I think that's where the Shrike models first came from. So, yeah, and also there's not even a kind of burrowing detachment either.
No.
So like Raveners, Trigons, Trigon Primes, which don't exist anymore, do they? There's no such thing as a Trigon Prime. It's just a Trigon.
I think that's right.
Trigons, Morlocks, Raveners, all burrowing.
Do they have the Vanguard keyword, those guys? Do they fit into that or not?
So Morlocks don't.
That's a shame.
Raveners don't.
Yeah.
So you can't even use them in. Yeah. So again, like I was like, right, let's do an all flying army. There's nothing that really fits that. Okay, cool. Let's look at what burrowing things they are. Oh, there's nothing that does that. And there is a Hive Fleet that's very famous for its use of burrowers. It's Hive Fleet Jormungandr.
Oh, that's a cool name.
Which is A, cool name, but also B, they're really like famous for kind of doing burrowing tactics. So Raveners and Morlocks. And like how we saw in the Space Marine Codex, it was like, you can have the siege list, in brackets, Imperial Fists, but don't tell anyone. I was kind of thinking that they would do kind of like Hive Fleet themed lists. And of course, you've got Invasion Fleet, which I guess is anything, but it's kind of Leviathan. And then I think, and then Crusher Stampede, which is kind of Behemoth.
Yeah, I was going to say they don't have quite the same identity as like the chapters, do they?
No, absolutely. And there is a bit of lore snippet on that, which is kind of saying like why are they different colors? And I guess no one really knows. Like, is it camouflage? Is it intimidation? Is it like colored notebook tabs for the hive queen, the hive mind, or to like know what's going where? Oh, we've got the red ones over there, the blue ones over there. So yeah, so in the end, to answer your question, Max, the Synaptic Nexus was the one I chose.
Yeah, cool.
So tell us about your Vanguard Onslaught list. So why specifically did Vanguard stand out to you?
Oh, I really like the idea of it. We were talking about how terrifying a Tyranid invasion is in the lore earlier, and how hopeless it is, and the stage of the invasion where these vanguard organisms come down and start picking off key objectives, taking out communications, like cutting off supply routes, stalking the shadows, and just this initial wave of horror and terror before the apocalypse comes. That idea really struck a chord with me, and I thought it'd be really fun to play an army themed around that idea. So it's not the hordes of bugs. It's not, the big monsters coming and smashing down the walls of the fortifications here. This is the sort of initial tricksy picking off phase where the key commanders are being assassinated and the key facilities are being kind of picked off one by one. I thought that was a really cool flavor to lean into. And you also get some really good rules for Vanguard Onslaught as well. So there is a new keyword for datasheets now that's called Vanguard Invader, and the detachment rule is every unit gets the ability to fall back and charge, and that's regardless of if it's a Vanguard Invader unit or not. But then Vanguard Invader units also get advance and charge. So you're not restricted to just picking datasheets with Vanguard Invader. You can also benefit from this detachment from other datasheets too. And with the way that fighting order works now, the ability to fall back and charge and get that fights first again is really powerful, because hitting first is obviously better. So the ability to kind of trigger that again is really, really good. And the ability to advance and charge, well, obviously, Tyranids have a lot of combat options, so that's always going to be strong. And there's also some really good enhancements. So Chameleonic is good. It gives the benefit of cover, and grants you stealth against shooting attacks as well. So you can put that on a character model and make them really beefy, hard to hit, hard to take down. There is Neuronode, which allows for a lot of redeployment shenanigans at the start of the game. And what's really good about this one is that it triggers after the first turn roll-off. So you can be really aggressive with your, advanced deployment units. And then if you don't get first turn, you can trigger this ability and redeploy them, take them off the board completely, and pop them back in later if you want. Or just put them somewhere a bit more defensive, which I like. So you can go all out initially and then tailor if you don't get that first turn, which is really good to have that flexibility. And then some really, really good stratagems as well. Which, well, if I go through my list, how about that?
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
I can
Just touching on that questing tendrils rule. Tyranids units with this ability are eligible to charge in a turn in which they fell back. Vanguard Invader units with this ability are eligible to charge in a turn in which they advanced.
Yeah.
So and obviously any Vanguard Invader unit is also a Tyranid unit, so they can also charge in a turn in which they fell back. That is insane. That is so good. You could build an army, like a close combat army, with no Vanguard Invader units, and this would still be a really good detachment to take.
I think so.
The ability to charge after you fall back is so useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because it means you're swinging first again. And
100%.
And you can pull out a combat. Stuff can shoot at that unit that you've pulled back from, and then you're free to charge another one. It just gives you that flexibility of targets and movement, which is so important to getting objectives, getting points in 10th edition.
So tell us about the actual list itself.
Right. So we've gone 1,000 points. And I have, for my characters, gone for a Broodlord, and I've taken the enhancement, the Neuronode. So like I touched on earlier, that lets you redeploy 3 Vanguard Invader units at the start of the first turn. At the start of the game, sorry, specifically after the first turn roll-off. So that's one of the enhancements. I've then gone for Death Leaper as another character. And then this one's a bit of a point investment, but I've gone for a Winged Hive Tyrant.
Okay.
you can kit them out. Whichever melee weapons are pretty good. You know, the sword is a bit more high damage. If you take the talons, then you get a few more attacks, but slightly less damage. But they're both good. But you can give him chameleonic, and then that is an enhancement that the one that gives you the benefit of cover and stealth. So he's -1 to hit, and he gets, you know, the benefit of cover too. So hard to take down because he's pretty high toughness anyway. He's already toughness 9 with 10 wounds and a 4-up invuln and a 2-up save. So he's there to, you know, get in the mix and mess some stuff up. He's got a bit of anti-tank, you know, with the strength of his melee attacks. He can also do the, you know, have a stratagem for free thing, which is really good. So he's in there as one of my characters.
What stratagem does he get?
So you know, he's got like that generic like captain ability.
I see.
Where
That's cool.
will of the hive mind once per turn, one friendly Tyranid unit within 12 inches or more within 12 inches of this model can be targeted with a stratagem for 0 CP.
Yes.
So that's obviously limited.
And
to
that's what we
battle
talked
tactics
about. Yeah,
stratagems.
what we talked about last episode, where it's limited to battle tactics. Gotcha.
Yeah, but still really good. And then he's in there with chameleonic to give him that extra bit of survivability. And then in my battle line units, I've gone for a unit of 10 gargoyles. So you were talking about flying. I've already got 2 flying units in here.
Yeah, maybe this is what I need. Because that flying things with fly used to be able to. I want to say if it had the fly keyword, it used to be able to charge after it ran away. Maybe.
Yeah, you used to be able to fall back and shoot with fly in 8th edition. I don't know if you could charge as well, but yeah, fly used to be really strong. But I've got these gargoyles. They're not really here to do any damage. They are here to benefit from one of the stratagems called Seeded Brood. So what this does is it costs 1 CP. It triggers in your movement phase, and it lets either 2 Vanguard units or 1 other unit from your army arrive from Deep Strike as if it was 1 battle round later. So effectively, what that means in matched play is turn 1 Deep Strikes, which
wow.
they're not going to do a lot of damage when they come down. But what they can do, and you know, if I was doing this for 2,000 points, I'd take a unit of 20 rather than a unit of 10. Is they are horrible at move blocking, and I have been on the receiving end of this. So the my friend dropped down his 20 gargoyles using this Seeded Brood stratagem, 9 inches away from my. You know, I was frontlining my deployment zone. I had a Chaos Land Raider full of 10 Chosen that was desperate to get up the board and start doing what it does, right? Drop them out and they mince whatever they charge into. These gargoyles come in, they can then shoot, and they have an ability called Winged Swarm, which is after you've shot with them in the shooting phase, if it's not within engagement range of any enemy unit, it can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. So you can drop them in 9, shoot, move them another 6, and completely, you know, cut off a key unit from being able to move, which really hampered me back. It kind of took my plans back a whole turn because I had to deal with these 20 gargoyles that are in my face. I mean, they're not tough or anything. They're only toughness 3 with a 6-up save. They die very, very easily, but they had to be dealt with. So I've dropped those in there for some anti-movement shenanigans.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's a really good strat. Yeah.
Is there any way to make them more durable?
You can give a stratagem called Unseen Lurkers, which makes one of your Vanguard units untargetable outside of, so it gives them lone operative basically. So if you were clever, I mean, it would depend on what you're trying to achieve with them, right? But if they were far enough away from a enemy unit with lots and lots of DACA, you could make them untargetable by that unit, which would be really good. What's really cool with unseen lurkers as well is if your unit already has lone operative, then you target them with this stratagem, and it means that they can't be targeted within 6 inches.
Oh wow! Because normally it's
So
12.
yeah, so it cuts that in half even more. So something deep striking 9 inches away from one of your key lone operative creatures wouldn't be able to target them with this because they wouldn't be within that 6 inches. So it's a really good one. So that would give them some survivability for sure.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
good. I like
and
that.
then yeah, moving into the rest of the data sheets, I've got a unit of 10 Gene Stealers to run around with the Broodlord. The Broodlord gives them devastating wounds in their fight phase, which is really good because they've got quite a few attacks. They have 4 attacks each, so that's 40 attacks coming in. Weapon skill 2, so you're going to get a hell of a lot of hits with that. But they're only strength 4, so the fact that you're then rolling, I don't know, let's say 30 plus dice after your hit roll, if you're hitting on 2s normally, it's going to be a good number of hits. With the ability to get devastating wounds on a 6 is really nice. Like that's going to hurt anything of any toughness because it will just go right through. So he's there to run around with the Gene Stealers, and they get a scout move of 8 as well. And then, of course, they can advance and charge because they've got the Vanguard keyword. So you could quite, if your opponent has deployed aggressively, there is a really good chance of getting a turn 1 charge with your Gene Stealers and Broodlord, which could be horrible. And then to round it off, I've got 2 Lictors at 60 points each. So together with Death Leaper, they can deploy in advance of your deployment zone. They've got the Infiltrators keyword, so they can do that. And then with the Neuro node, if I can be really aggressive with them, so they can really go after some key targets. But if I have to redeploy because I don't get to first turn, then I can do that. So lots of flexibility there. They can act as kind of, good little action monkeys as well. So they can spread out on the board, cleanse objectives or grab engage, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, having little sort of units like that is because Rippers, even though they've got OC0, can still do actions, can't they?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and they still they clarified, didn't they? Eligible to shoot. You don't have to have a gun to be eligible to shoot. So,
Is that right?
yeah. So when it says,
Ah,
if in the shooting phase, if a unit is eligible to shoot, it can perform this action. You
it's
can
if
do
they
that
are
with
eligible to shoot via the rules,
yeah.
rather via the core rules which
Y-
enable a unit to shoot.
Yeah, so it's they clarified it in the rules commentary, yeah, that even melee units can do actions because it'd be really frustrating otherwise. And what's good with this as well, there's another stratagem called Invisible Hunter, which means that you can pull your Vanguard invader units back into reserves in the enemy fight phase. So if they're not currently engaged, they're kind of out of position in the board. You can pop this strat, you could pull your Lictor back, and then you could pop him somewhere else up in your turn, which would be really good. So again, gives you that movement flexibility to spread out, grab engage on all fronts, or behind enemy lines and all of that kind of stuff. So the 2 Lictors and the Death Leaper are my kind of forward operators. And then finally, I've got 2 units of 3 Zoanthropes. So not really with the theme of the army, but they're just too good. They're too good not to take. They've got a 4-up Invan, really good anti-tank. They've basically got las cannons. So, across the 2 units, you've got 6 las cannon shots, strength 12, -3, d6 1 damage, good anti-elite shots as well. They've got their Warp Blast Witchfire, which is d3 attacks with blast, strength 7 -2, d3 damage. So that's good against marines and elite infantry. And then the focused one is the las cannon smash, basically.
They're so good, aren't
Yeah,
they?
but I think you could, if you wanted to kind of flavor it in the list, I don't know, perhaps they are the vanguard
Oh,
of the
here we
of the
go. Here
of
we
the
go. Here we go.
of the hive mind. You know, they're there as the slightly more intelligent or the sort of comms guys to
Oh yeah, yeah. The
yeah,
comms guys.
they're the comms guys to maintain connection to the hive mind. But you know,
Absolute nonsense, Max. You're just bringing them because they got pew pew mind bullets.
well, look, stuff is tough in 10th, so you need that high strength pew pew to get through it. So it just rounds out the list a little bit. But yeah, there we have it.
I like it. I like it, and I
Yeah,
like how
good fun.
you've not done what I would have done, which is like only take units with the Vanguard rule.
6 von Ryan's leapers and
Absolutely, yeah,
3
absolutely.
lictors. Yeah. Yeah. No, well, what I found is there is a really good spread of data sheets that have Vanguard Invader as the keyword. So there's a lot of different stuff you can do. And it seems like a really fun detachment to play. I like the movement shenanigans that you can do. I think it'd be a good one.
Do you think an army purely based off imagine I created that army, lictors, Death Leaper, Von Ryans, things like that. Maybe a handful of gargoyles and a winged tyrant. Do you think a purely Vanguard organism army could be workable?
Yeah, I think it would have a lot of potential for scoring. So I think you could score a lot of primary points. I think you could score a lot of secondary points. The where you might struggle, I think, would be damaging the enemy. So it would be very hard to reduce their capacity to kill, and then I think you would score a lot quickly, but I don't think you would have the staying power to maintain that. I don't know. It depends. It depends how tricky you could be with your movement, I guess. But it would be a very high skill level army to run, I think. Which on a Monday evening after a day of work, when I just want to throw some dice, isn't always what I want. So this is for what I've gone for, kind of a hybrid, I guess. But I think it could work. It would just be tough to do.
That makes sense. The Zoanthropes, I'm a bit annoyed you took them, Max, if I'm honest, because I'm doing a psychic
stolen
army.
your thunder.
You have. Absolutely outrageous.
Tell me about your list and the detachment that you've picked, Dan.
Well, I have picked the Synaptic Nexus. So the detachment rule for this one is the leader beasts of these swarms act as conduits to the will of the hive mind. Irresistible imperatives lash out from them like whips that drive lesser bioforms to hurl themselves at the prey, to fight on through fatal wounds, or to attack with redoubled savagery. So what that looks like on the tabletop is at the start of the battle round, you can select one of the synaptic imperatives shown below. Until the end of the battle round, that synaptic imperative is active for your army, and while a Tyranids unit from your army is within synaptic range, or synapse range rather, it will benefit from it. Each synaptic imperative can only be selected once per battle. So you effectively get 3 kind of doctrines, to use Space Marine speak, but they don't last. They're only one per turn, and there are only 3 of them. So you don't have to pick one. So you can not pick one on turn 1 and save them for turn 2, 3, and 4, etc. But you can use them in whatever combo you like. So there are 3 of them, and effectively one makes you more survivable, one makes you more hitty, and one makes you faster. So the synaptic augmentation, whilst this unit is within synapse range of your army, models in this unit have a 5-up invulnerable save. So I think this one's a really good one for the first turn to make your army more survivable.
Alpha, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially if you're going second.
Yeah.
You've then got Surging Vitality, which is the speed one, and Goaded for Slaughter, which is the kind of combat, or the hitty one. Oh no, it is definitely combat. It's melee, not shooting. So Surging Vitality, whilst this unit is within synapse range of your army, add 1 to advance and charge rolls made for this unit. I think
that's really good.
I think that's good. And again, maybe a second turn one.
Yeah, once you've pushed up a bit, yeah.
Once you've pushed up a bit. Or Goaded to Slaughter, whilst this unit is within synapse range of your army. Each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to the hit roll. So again, another contender for turn 2, potentially turn 3. I think Surging Vitality and Goaded to Slaughter are both quite good utility plays. You can kind of save them until your army needs it. It's not like a build order. You don't go like, I'm going to go Synaptic Augmentation turn 1, Surging Vitality turn 2, Goaded to Slaughter for turn 3. Although that would also work. That sounds like a good combo. I think Synaptic Augmentation is really cool to use on the first turn, but you don't have to. If you've got lots of cover or you're hidden behind line of sight blockers, you can use it on turn 4 when you've got some
Yeah.
really, really important things on objectives that you need to keep alive.
If you're up against like a very melee heavy army, like I don't know,
Absolutely.
if you were fighting my custodies, I can't really hurt you with my shooting in turn 1 to any meaningful extent. Save that 5-up invuln until you're properly in the mix with all my guardsman squads and guardian squads, and then yeah, that's nasty, right? Like 5-up invuln. That's one in every, well, one in, if you roll average, you're going to be rolling a lot of saves there.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's a really nice bit of flexibility. So you don't have something that's active all the time like yours, but I do like that you have to kind of use your brain, which makes sense because we're an army of brain bugs.
So it's synapse. It's when you're in synapse range, you get this buff, right? So it's not restricted
Absolutely.
to certain keywords. It's just maintain synapse range, and you get the benefit there, which is good.
Yeah.
And there are little gribbly things. There are things you can do to extend synapse range, aren't there? And but like we were saying, there's plenty of data sheets with the synapse keywords. So
Absolutely. For example, there's a stratagem which allows you to extend your synapse range of a unit to 9 inches instead of 6 inches. And so let's talk a little bit about the enhancements that are available. So I picked Power of the Hive Mind as one of them because I just think it sounded super cool and strong. So the Hive Mind channels lethal energy through its synaptic bioforms, and this is applied to a Tyranid Psyker model, and you improve the strength and armor penetration characteristics of psychic weapons equipped by the bearer by 1.
really good, really good. So I'm guessing you've gone for 18 zone tropes, right?
Well, not quite, but possible. But that's that has to be a character, that one, so you can't improve the armor penetration and strength of a zoanthrope. Although, do neurothropes still exist? They don't, do they?
They do, but they're embedded within zoanthrope units.
Are they
So
like a
the unit,
sergeant?
yeah, well, the unit composition of a zoanthrope unit now is 1 neurothrope and 2 to 5 zoanthropes.
Huh.
And then
And what does the neurothrope actually do?
So if your unit contains one, each time that an enemy fails a battle shock test within 6 inches of that unit, it suffers D3 mortal wounds, and your unit regains D3 lost wounds. So it can force mortal wounds on units within 6, and you can heal up a bit as well. But that's all he does now. He's not like an actual individual character or anything.
And he's specifically not a character, so there's no way you can. I suppose you could precision strike him out, couldn't you?
No, you could. No, he wouldn't. He doesn't have. It's just part of the
If you've got precision, can you not?
can't.
Do you have to? It's not you choose the model; it's you can choose it to be on a character.
Yeah, that's right. I think. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. So it's not like you could take him out with your snipers or anything. It's just he's just embedded. He's just in there. Just part of the unit now.
Weapons with precision in their profile are known as precision weapons. Thank you, Games Workshop. Each time an attack made with such a weapon successfully wounds an attached unit, if a character model in that unit is visible to the attacking model's player can choose to have that attack allocated to that character model instead of following the normal attack sequence. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Ash is the Imperium educating people, mostly the hosts, on rules.
It's good.
Well done.
I do like
it's
this because
it's good to learn.
Exactly. I'm learning lots.
Thanks, kids. Thanks, Dad. Right. So, Oh, that's cool. So let's talk about the other enhancement that I liked, which was psychostatic disruption. And I thought this was a really cool, again, like a utility play. So a maelstrom of psychostatic disruption boils about this bioform. It degrades artificial and biological cognition alike, causing teleport signals to fluctuate, geopositioning cogitators to spew contradictory data, and onrushing enemy warriors to reel in confusion. So this has to go on a synapse model, and enemy units that arrive on the battlefield from reserves cannot be set up within 12 inches of the bearer.
Oh, that's really good.
That's cool, isn't it?
That is cool.
That's cool.
That would really mess up like Gene Stealer Cult or something, that are so dependent on units coming back in. Being able to like push that out is really good.
And that's 30 points.
Oof, yeah. Quite an that's about as expensive as enhancements get, isn't there? There's a few that are more expensive, but that's on the mid to higher side, yeah.
And
it is strong.
And you think, okay, well, that reserve setting up thing, 30 points, that's quite a lot, but it's because it has this second thing as well. So in addition, once per battle, during a first or second battle round, when your opponent declares that a unit will arrive on the battlefield from strategic reserves, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, roll 1d6. On a 4+, that enemy unit cannot arrive on the battlefield this turn.
Oh, that's a real.
That's a gamble. That's a
Yeah.
gamble, but I love it. Like
Yeah.
imagine that kind of like turn 2 deep strike kind of vibe.
Oh,
Or
God,
your
got me.
silly little gargoyles.
I know. I know. Although, read that again, because there might be a fun interaction here. Read the second part again.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
I know what you're gonna do.
Rules as written. Come on.
In addition, once per battle, during the first or second battle round, when your
Yeah,
opponent
okay.
declares that a unit will arrive on the battlefield from strategic reserves, the bearer can use this enhancement. So you're referring to seeded broods. The
Yeah, no,
effect
I
being
think you're good.
until
I
the end
think
of
you're
the
good.
phase, for the purposes of setting up those selected units on the battlefield, treat the current battle round number as being one higher than it actually is for your units in reserves.
So in turn 2, it would effectively be turn 3 with
No, so
Seeded Brood because it's one round later. So that's how
yeah,
you can get a turn 1 deep strike with it.
yeah. So
It's
if
like
you
turn 1 is
if you're
turn
doing
2.
it on turn 1, it says it's turn 2. However, that means basically your
Yeah, I think you're good.
stratagem allows you to deploy,
Yeah.
but it doesn't affect what turn it actually is.
No, yeah. That's right. So yeah, you could mess up my
So
gargoyle.
stuff you, Max's gargoyles.
Exactly. In the Nid versus Nid combat.
Absolutely, gonna love it.
Yeah, that's really good. So what
Uh,
about some other good stratagems in there too, I guess? Because these are just the enhancements you've been talking about, right? So
yeah, absolutely. So
yeah.
there's a couple of others. You can subtract 1 for the damage characteristic of attacks, and
Always good, yeah.
you can worsen the leadership by 1 within 9.
Yeah.
So there's some cool stratagems. So one is just like a mortal wound generator. So after any phase, use any phase just after enemy unit fails a battle shock test, 1 synapse from your unit within 12 inches of that enemy unit, and you roll 66 for each 3 up. The enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound.
All right, so you should
So
get
you're doing like,
two or three pretty reliably there, right? Like yeah,
well,
or more, but yeah.
for every 3 up.
I'm just going off my rolling, Dan. Yeah, I'm just getting off my rolling. I had a game of D&D the other night, and I did not roll above a 10 on my D20 for the entire night. It was
I've had sessions like that. You know, I've had sessions. I've had sessions like that with you, Max.
yeah. But
I
no,
think
like
when I
mortal
tried
wounds.
when I tried to jump off an airship and I fell off. But yeah, that's so yes. If you're rolling like Max, that's 2 mortal wounds. If you're rolling statistically averagely, it's 4.
Yeah, so you're doing good. No, mortal wounds are really good too.
And if you're
So
rolling in the brain of Dan, it's 6 mortal wounds.
guaranteed every time.
Absolutely,
Every time.
absolutely. The next one is so that's just 1 CP.
Yeah.
Another one CP in the command phase until the end of the turn. You can make yourself 9 inch synap, which we discussed a second ago. Irresistible Will, another 1 CP shooting phase. Pick a unit that has not been selected to shoot or fight, and 1 enemy unit within 24 and visible to that unit. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly Tyranids model makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, if the attacking model's unit is within 6 inches of your synapse unit, re-roll a hit roll of 1 and a wound roll of 1.
Yeah, it's good. Hitting and wounding, more reliable, always good.
Okay, so that's cool. So you can either have a unit that is very close, they're perhaps within 6 themselves, and you can reroll hit rolls of 1 and wound rolls of 1. Or, wait a minute, it says reroll a hit roll of 1 and a wound roll of 1. Does that mean you can only reroll 1?
Oh, this stratagem sucks, Dan.
This is weird. This is confusing. All right, well, that's me confused. But yeah, so you can basically, if you're within 6 inches of a synapse unit, you can buff your dudes. The next one is reinforced hive node. So your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. You select 1 synapse unit from your army that was selected as the target until the end of the phase. Each time an attack targets your unit, you worsen the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. So that's cool. Again, really good if you're on objectives. You're trying to stay
survival. Yeah.
Stay survival, and imagine comboing that with synaptic augmentation for the 5+ invulnerable.
Yeah, really good. Just you could keep that key unit on the objective, Yeah, and then if you're in Synapse, you're getting your 3d6 battle shock. So, what's left should be still OC as well. So, really good.
And then the last 2 are, again, command phase, 1 CP, 1 Tyranids unit from your army that is within synapse range of your army, and you can select a synaptic imperative, even if you have already selected that imperative for this battle. Still, until the start of your next command phase, that synaptic imperative is active for your unit instead of any other synaptic imperatives is active your rest of your army.
We see that quite a bit, don't we, with these kind of rolling
Doctrine type
abilities that you
things.
pick things, like have more than one active. Yeah, that's always a strong one. And like if you can pick that at the key moment on the key unit, really, really powerful.
Absolutely. And especially like if if you've used your advance and charge roll to get your army really mobile and you suddenly think, oh damn, I could really do with a 5-up invulnerable on a unit, then you can use that just for CP.
Yeah.
And then the final one is a movement phase 1. One Tyranids unit from your army that's within silence range of your army and made a fullback move this phase, you can shoot and declare a charge. So you get mini Vanguard Onslaught for a CP on one unit.
All good. So how have you cooked this all together in the
How have I cooked this
in the
synaptic
biomass
monstrosity?
pools? Yeah, into some kind of
Well,
loop.
Max, I flicked through the codex, and every single time I came across the synapse keyword, I said yes.
I like your strategy.
No, not quite. But so I took the Neurotyrant because he seemed super cool.
Mm-hmm.
So big synaptic beast. He has psychic terror. So if one or more of your models from your army with this ability are on the battlefield when you unleash the shadow in the warp, subtract 1 from the battle shock test for each enemy unit on the battlefield, which seems decent.
Did you read the story snippet in the codex involving the Neurotyrant?
Oh, I'm not sure I did. Tell me
it's
more.
so good. It's an
What
Imperial
page?
Guard trench line, and further down it's just before. Yeah, let me find the page. Just before the 4th Tyrannic War, or just after it. It's like a double page spread or something.
Oh yeah, 24 and 25.
Talks about a commissar.
Oh yeah, Dartani.
Yes. So there's a Astra Militarum commissar who is, manning this defensive trench line, and she's observing like a scythed hydrojewel, like ploughing through the lines, half a mile further down, and she's sort of witnessing all this horror. And she gets the order to pull back to the tertiary defense line, and she starts moving her unit through these woods, and a Neurotyrant appears in front of them and basically paralyzes all of them. They can't act, but their faith in the Emperor overcomes, and they start blasting away at this, but it's just bouncing off the psychic shielding. Her men are getting like butchered around her, and this Neurotyrant, it's so creepy. It says it just like gently caresses her head with its tentacles and just like slowly pulls her into its mouth and like just bites her head off, and it's just so yeah, you've got one of those.
Got one of those creepy tentacle boys. So yeah, I thought about maybe attaching him into a unit.
So who can he lead?
Yeah, so he can be attached to Neurogaunts or Tyrant Guard.
Okay.
I think the problem with attaching him to Neurogaunts is that they're toughness 3 and
Yeah.
he's toughness 8. So
Yeah, so you're going to be rolling. Your enemy's going to be rolling against
yeah,
toughness. Which is which I have found that more with Tyranids than any other army at the moment. Like mostly leaders and their bodyguard units are of equal toughness, but there's a few in the Tyranid Codex where that's not the case. So yeah, keeping him as a lone operative is not
because
bad
my
idea.
understanding, and happy to be corrected on this by either yourself, Max, or listeners. If let's say you have a Neurotyrant attached to a squad of Neurogaunts, and there's only 2 Neurogaunts left, and they're both toughness 3. You roll your strength versus the bodyguard's toughness, and let's say you do 10 wounds against the Neurogaunts.
Yeah.
You do all of those wounds against toughness 3, and then it overspills onto the unit.
Yeah, that's right. So, say 2 of those 10 wounds finished off your Neurogaunts, you're rolling the rest of those against your Neurotyrant, yeah.
Which would make me a sad panda. So
yeah, I can't blame you.
So I didn't give him a bodyguard, although
No.
yeah. And then next up,
toughness 8.
toughness 8,
he's good.
4
Yeah.
up invulnerable, like
Yeah.
it. And then the Norn Emissary next.
Really cool.
Cool model, big brain, and I gave him the power of the hive mind, so that makes his psychic weapons, i.e. the ranged attacks, +1 strength and sort of -1 AP. So he's got a neuroparasite, precision psychic, 2 attacks. They're all 18 inch range. 2 attacks, 2s to hit, comes strength 9. AP2 becomes AP3, D3 damage.
And
So that's good.
that's precision as well, isn't it? So that's like your
Yeah.
sniper one, yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Then you've
cool.
got Neuroblast, so that's Blast and Psychic. 2d6, 2 up, becomes Strength 7, AP3, damage 1. And then
It's your dacker.
Neurolance,
Yeah.
Melter 12. Oh, sorry, Melter 12.
Ooh.
Strength 12,
Yeah.
Melter 2. 2 attacks, 2's to hit. Strength 12 becomes Strength 13, and AP3 becomes AP4. D6 damage.
I really like the psychic attacks that have this kind of, diversity of profiles.
Yeah.
Swiss Army knife of ranged attacks is really, really good.
And then my final character is a Neurolictor. Again, a model with a big brain. I thought it would fit well within the theme. He's been given the psychostatic disruption, so he's been given that thing that prevents you from deploying things around him, and he can shut down a reserve unit because he's also got infiltrator, lone operative, and stealth. So I can stick him out in the midfield somewhere,
Yeah.
and disrupt things.
Yeah. So, hide him away, lone operative, he can't be targeted easily, and then he push out that no deep strike aura. Kind of, just ahead of your lines, like stop stuff coming in and getting that 9-inch charge. That's really good.
So he's only 65 points.
That's cheap, isn't it?
But I mean, he's 95, he's plus 30 for psychostatic disruption, which I think you have to incorporate into the cost, of course. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's, for less than 100 points, I think that's decent.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of goes on to the rest of the army. So I went for 2 lots of Neurogaunts. So I suppose it's 2 units of 11, but you get 1 Node Beast and 10 Neurogaunts. I went for 2 squads of 10 rather than 1 unit of 20, just because I think presence on the board, objectives is important. And then 2 units of 3 Zoanthropes. Max has already harped on about how amazing Zoanthropes are. They're very cool, little floating las cannons.
Hard to shift as well.
Yeah, well, so all the psychic stuff has got a 5-up invuln.
Yeah,
and that's again, I think why this army is really strong is everything in the army apart from the Neurogaunts has got a 4-up invuln. So, and then your Gaunts are going to be hiding behind. Oh, sorry, and the Rippers. Spoilers, there's some Rippers. Yeah, everything in your army apart from like the things that will be hiding in terrain it's got a 4-up invuln. I think that's pretty legit. So yeah, 2 units of 3 Zoanthropes and a Maleceptor.
So that's like a big bug, right?
Yeah, big bug, big brain bug. 170 points. So it's toughness 11, 14 wounds, and it's got psychic overload. It's a blast attack at 18-inch range, d6 plus 3 attacks, 3's to hit, strength 10, AP2, damage 3.
So you've got quite a few. You've got a good kind of threat saturation in this list, haven't you? Like if I was like across the table from that, I'd be like turn 1, like, oh god, that Norn emissary is very scary. Shall I shoot at him? Well, that Maleceptor's big and scary. There's a lot of, you're making your opponent make some choices there, which I think is always a good thing.
Absolutely. And I think I do wonder whether the Zoanthropes. So the Zoanthropes are 110, the Maleceptor is 170. Like, is the Maleceptor just a not very good version of a Zoanthrope? So not. So you've got, if you've got 3 Zoanthropes, you're doing 3 attacks at 24-inch range, 3's to hit, strength 12, AP3, damage d6 plus 1. So what's that? Let's say that's 3. So 3 shots, 2 of them will hit, and then you're doing d6 plus 1. So that's 3.5, doing like 9 damage there. Yeah, does that maths work?
Yeah, having faced them a few times, yeah, they are reliable output of damage for sure.
Versus a Maleceptor, which is d6 plus 3, so potentially up to 9 shots. But strength 10, AP2 instead of 3, and it's damage 3 instead of d6 plus 1.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a like elite infantry killer, isn't it?
Yeah, and
With
wounds
the blast,
14, so you're getting over rather than 9 wounds, you're getting 14 wounds. So yeah, I think it's worth it, and also it's worth it for me for a little bit of just model variation.
Yeah, exactly. And your opponents will treat it differently because it is a big. You can't, especially if it's the first time you've like faced one. You can't help yourself. Like someone sticks a great big monster down in front of you, you're going to want to shoot at that thing, and then that, of course, diverts attention away from maybe some of your slightly more dangerous units that use it as a bit of a distraction unit.
A distraction Carnifex.
Distraction Maleceptor. Yeah.
Oh, terrible.
So yeah, I like the sound of that. I think that sounds like a good list. I wouldn't like playing it just because I know how tough it is to chew through Zoanthropes. But combine that with the different buffs you can choose each turn, a couple of really big scary monsters in there. Yeah, I think that would be quite nasty to face, to be honest.
It was a real shame that the Malanthrope disappeared. So the Forge World units have only got. I know it's not a psychic unit; it's a kind of feeder unit rather than anything else. But you've only got the Barbed Hierodor, the Scythe Hierodor, the Harridan, and the Hierophant now in the Imperial armor. So I think that would be. Was that a psychic unit? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Well, it wasn't psychic, but it was Synapse.
Okay, so it would have played a role.
Yeah, it
for
would
sure.
have. It would have been cool for this unit of this army rather.
I think with the high toughness that you've got in some of your units there, I think especially at 1,000 points, stuff is going to struggle to hurt the Norn emissary at 1,000 points. It's just he's a big scary bug. So a good spread of options. I think you've managed to get him.
So the Norn emissary at 290 points is probably it is a big investment. How much is a Hive Tyrant?
225 with the winged Hive Tyrant is 225. So not significantly cheaper. Still a big chunk of points.
210.
Yeah, I think I've added in my enhancement as well.
Oh yeah, so winged Hive Tyrant 210
Yeah.
and a Hive Tyrant 235.
Yeah.
So yeah, is the Norn emissary better than a Hive Tyrant for this list? It's thematic, sure, but a Hive Tyrant is it's a beast in combat. Can you still get a Swarm Lord?
Yeah, the Swarm Lord's still an option for sure.
Oh yeah.
And they have got a really neat ability to increase the CP cost of stratagems as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, which is nasty. And I think
so he has a psychic attack. Because one of the things I noticed, the Hive Tyrant and the Winged Hive Tyrant don't have psychic attacks.
Okay. Yeah.
So they have they have a rule. They have an ability called so the Hive Tyrant's got Onslaught. So whilst a friendly Tyranid's unit within 6 of this model, assault weapons or ranged weapons rather have assault, and the Winged Hive Tyrant has at the start of the fight phase you can select one enemy unit within 12 inches and visible to this model and roll 1d6. On a 1, you suffer d3 mortal wounds. On a 2 up until the end of the phase, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of weapons equipped by models in that unit. So there are psychic abilities rather than psychic attacks, whereas the Swarm Lord has Synaptic Pulse as a ranged weapon. So
Psychic
d6 plus
Flamer,
3, Psychic Torrent, yeah, absolutely. Strength 5, AP 1, damage 2. But that would become, with Power of the Hive Mind, that would become Strength 6, AP 2.
Yeah, that's good.
So you're instant killing, not instant killing, that's not a thing anymore. So you're wounding on 2s
against a lot of
against like humans and elves.
Yeah, and also as well as the ability to increase the CP cost of a opponent's stratagem permanently for the rest of the game, which is really good.
Yeah, and you generate a CP yourself.
Yeah, you get an extra CP. Yeah, so he is also probably my favorite Tyranid unit. I think the Swarm Lord.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, here this is the best bit. At 1,000 points, I have to make a choice. At 2,000 points,
have them all. Well, yeah, that's it.
There we go.
Take both the guys. Have a real monster mash.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, really good.
So how would you expand this out to 2,000 points rather? So you add in a Swarm Lord. Do you think you need Hive Guard for your Swarm Lord?
No, I would run him alone again for that reason that we talked about before with the mixed toughness. It's going to make your Swarm Lord more.
Swarm Lord is toughness 10. I don't mean Hive Guard. I mean Tyrant Guard, but Tyrant Guard are toughness 8.
Okay, so it's not a huge jump down.
Whilst the character model is leading this unit, that character model has Feel No Pain 5 up.
Okay, so maybe it's not quite as bad as we were thinking with the Neuro Tyrant.
No, well the thing is the Neuro Tyrant can also join Tyrant Guard.
Okay.
So he'd be a great little combo for that because he's toughness 8. I was just thinking about joining him to Neuro Gaunts. If you were to add a Swarm Lord, boost your zone thropes up to units of 6.
Yeah.
And add a third unit of 6. Your Rippers unit just becomes 3 Rippers just for the sake of it, because more bodies. That's 1750 already.
Yeah, you're a And then I think maybe just some cheap gribblies, just to like, I don't know, some termagants or something, just to sit on some
No,
objectives.
but
and
they're
get
not psychic, Max.
No, I
They're
know.
not psychic. I don't like it.
I know. What about barb gaunts? Are they psychic?
No,
No.
Neurogaunts.
Well, there you go. Just get more neurogaunts then.
They're terrible. They are
They are
terrible.
awful.
They are
Yeah.
awful. I'm
Yeah.
surprised they've got OC, to be honest.
It's a real damage dealer, this list, isn't it? It
Yeah.
hits really hard.
I think you're right. I think some Termagants would be.
Just to sit in a ruin.
Yeah. But then why are you not taking, if all they're doing is sitting in a ruin, why not Neurogaunts?
Well, then sure. Yeah. There's not a huge step up in toughness or saves, is there? But yeah, just more bodies. I think just more bodies, just to stuff to do actions, stuff to grab objectives, and then let the big guys and zoanthropes go to town.
There you go. So if I were to add in, right, how's this? Neurotyrant, Swarmlord with Power of the Hivemind, Norn Emissary, Neurolictor, Psychostatic Disruption. For the Neurolictor, 3 units of 22 Neurogaunts, 3 units of 6 Zoanthropes, 2 units of 3 Rippers, and a Maliceptor. 1,990.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I like that.
And all your
18.
units are psychic or synapse or thematically themed.
18 zoanthropes.
You're not winning any friends with that list, are you?
That's disgusting. That's so horrible.
And all the damage dealers in your army have a 4-up invulnerable save.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh, Dan, you power gamer.
I know. Mad, eh?
Here I am with my lictors and my Death Leaper, jumping about and cleansing objectives, and you just blast it off the board.
I know, right? So there we go. That is our little take on Tyranids. What do you think, Max? Are you going to get some Tyranids, or is it just a sort of fun little exercise for you?
This is a case of Novi enemy for me today. I'm not gonna jump into a Tyranid army at any point soon, but like I said, I do enjoy coming up against them. So I feel like I've been schooled by the biologists now, and I know my enemy a bit better.
Excellent. Well, maybe for the next episode we can talk a little bit about if there's not another codex release to review, we can talk a little bit about the Anphelion project.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, do a bit of a lore dive.
Cool. So, listeners, don't forget you can win a Death Leaper. So head over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and comment on the podcast video, and also head over to our Instagram and like and comment on the image that we post for this episode, and make sure you're following us on Instagram, and we'll enter all the people that do that into a ballot, into a pool of people, and we'll draw someone at random and send them out a Death Leaper, and then you too can join the Hive Fleet. So until next time, keep calm and crusade on.